Calling this, we're calling this meeting to order. Or not.
Committee member Greenbaum,
Here.
committee member Spurgeon,
Here.
committee member McBride.
Here.
Treasurer Logan.
Here. We're going to salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is open time for public regarding non-agenda items. Anyone wishing to speak on non-agenda items will be recognized at this time. These items can legally have no action as they are not on the agenda. There is a 3-minute time limit.
We do not have any hands raised at this time, and we also have no emailed public comment.
Thank you. All right, the first item on our agenda then is item 3A. Summary of fiscal year 2021-2022 sales tax override fund and preparation of annual report.
Hey, good afternoon, Sales Tax Committee. You have before you in your agenda the staff report and attachments regarding the 2021-22 fiscal year. Page 5 of the agenda packet shows that at the beginning of July 2021, there was approximately $8.6 million in the sales tax override fund. And when we closed out the year, as of June 30th, 2022, you will see yes, you will see that there was approximately $8.3 million, and that includes the $2.5 million emergency reserve, leaving $5.8 million available. On this page, you will see that the total revenue collected was approximately $4 million in the previous fiscal year. And just as a point of comparison, in the year before that, the revenue was $3.4 million. But, you know, of course, that was during the pandemic. So that probably the increase probably was due to that. Some of the increase. The proceeds of debt, the auditor recommended that we recognize part of the certificates of participation. And so I added that. And then you'll see the expenditures listed below in the categories that the town council had approved. And you'll see off to the side, there's little notes. One item I'd like to draw attention to is the negative $32,500, where I wrote prior year expenditures transferred to the general fund. And that was based on the committee's recommendation or request last year that we not use this fund to pay for the gift cards. So I transferred that to the general fund, those expenditures. The debt service refers to the certificates of participation that have to be repaid. And then the transfers out to other funds, as you'll see below, are for code enforcement and project management salaries. And then in the senior programs, Patty Stolier had emailed me earlier with a question, and upon looking into this, I see that about $9,000 of a swim program should actually be in the youth program. So I'll make that change. And these are based on the financial statements. They have been, the audited financial statements finalized have been approved since this. I had noted on here they were not received as of January 19th, but they have been now. So the following pages, beginning on page
6 of the packet.
6 of the packet. shows a little more detail of those categories. It shows a little more detail of those categories listed on page 5.
Mhm.
And then on page, beginning on page 10 with a summary on page 13, it shows the same expenditures, except it shows by project number and project name,
Okay,
this exact same information. So, be happy to answer any questions if there are any about this
okay,
report.
all right. So let me just go with the committee. Jean, do you have any questions or comments with regard to 2020 1-2022 information? Let me just go through this.
So under, on page 6, the disaster preparedness services. That was way over budget. Was there a reason for that? What did that include?
Disaster preparedness, on that line, yes, that was NRG, that was the NRG, that's beginning in this fiscal, the current fiscal year, that will be paid directly by Central Marin Fire.
So were we under budgeted or,
Yes, it was under budgeted. I guess I hadn't realized that NRG was to be included in that line item. That it was, I thought it was going to be paid by fire, but it didn't
But-
start being paid
but
by
going
fire. Yeah,
forward, it
yes,
will be?
exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay, does that answer your question, Jean?
Yeah, I'm just going through my highlights here.
Sure.
Bear with me. I guess I'm still a little confused on how this debt service is working, but
Okay, for this debt service in this fund, the town issued debt in the amount of approximately $6.7 million to pay for the town hall construction. And the proceeds of that debt are held by an outside trustee. And as the invoices are paid, we send them to that trustee and they reimburse us. And so, but the debt service is the amount that we have to repay, for that $6.7 million over, I don't know that, I can't
is
remember.
that interest and principal?
That's interest and
And
principal, yes.
principal. Okay,
yes.
so, and how long is this loan for? What's it structured for?
I think, I don't have it right in front of me. I think it's 20 years. I can get back to you on that.
Okay, so this will be an expense for the next 20 years?
Yes,
Okay.
So one could equate it to one's mortgage payment.
yes, yes.
Okay,
I just didn't know how long. I didn't know whether we were just paying interest or,
No, this includes both the
so it's like a
principal
mortgage.
and the
Okay.
interest, yes.
I got it. I think that's the only questions I had about the report itself.
okay. Carl, do you have any?
Yeah, just to follow up on the why is it showing up now? This account's been around for a while.
If you could just
Oh,
turn your
sorry.
mic on.
Why is the debt
mic.
service showing up now?
And it's kind of popping on to everything.
Well,
It
yeah,
hasn't been there before, so.
the debt service, well, the certificates of participation were issued in May of 2021. So I believe this was the first, 21, 22. This was the first year that we had to make those payments.
And what was the full amount originally? Was it around that 400,000 number?
The amount of the
Proceeds?
the pros, the
308.
the proceeds were about 6.7 million or 6.8 million.
Okay.
That was the total proceeds.
And so our debt service annually is somewhere around 400K.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
So why the proceeds 300K?
Only a certain amount is being recognized each year. That was the auditor's suggestion.
So proceeds meaning the borrowed money.
Yes.
basically,
Yes,
Some portion of it.
Yes, the entire amount was recognized in the general fund last year, in, the year they were actually issued. But then as we repay, I guess he recommended that we recognize a portion this year or in 2022 and the years subsequent to that.
Yeah, I'm still a little confused, but I'll let it go. That's it for me. Thank you.
Chris, do you have anything?
My question was just to go back to the debt service. Do you, so if that was sort of pre-Fed funds rate increase, do you know what kind of a rate we got on that offhand, what we're paying?
It was
Could do the math on this if I had a calculator, but
I can go look, but I think it was around 3%.
I thought I read something about 2%.
Yeah, it was either 2 or 3%. Yeah.
And it's a fixed rate.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Fabulous.
so that won't be something likely that we'd ever refinance. So this really is
No.
kind of set debt.
Oh,
because
yeah,
I don't
it's
see us
set,
getting back
yes.
to that rate again. Okay, thank you.
Oh, Carl, we're having the audit tonight at the town council, or not tonight, tomorrow at the town council meeting. I can ask the auditor to explain that item and get back to you.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the numbers. We have proceeds and we have expenses. The expenses are larger than the proceeds, which makes sense. It's borrowed money back. I still don't know how you come to that number. And it
Okay, yeah,
ends
that
up
was,
on these
yeah,
sheets.
that was the auditor's number. I will ask
That's
him
kind of-
and then I will,
It's a new line item.
I'll ask him tomorrow.
So in general terms, would the difference between the expenses and the proceeds be interest? If,
Makes sense.
Probably. Yeah.
okay,
Is it only dispersed? Is that one drawn on funds? Or was it
Yeah.
fully dispersed?
The outside proceed Bank of New York Mellon, they received the entire amount in May of 2021. And they're holding it. And then as we pay the construction invoices, we send them to the Bank of New York Mellon and then they reimburse us.
Okay,
Yeah, until that is exhausted.
the auditor probably would know better than I. I
Yes.
just wonder if it's not fully dispersed yet because it's being chunked down
That's right.
on draws.
So are we getting any interest on that?
Yes.
Oh, we are.
Yes. Mhm.
okay. The senior program questions that I had was the senior programs and the youth programs. So there's that some portion of the senior programs is salaries and all of the youth programs is salaries?
All of the youth programs were salaries, yes.
Okay. And this question may have been answered in the past, but in general terms, what does housing element mean? It seems to me to be a broad and general term.
Oh, I can answer that. I mean, that was all essentially the costs associated with preparing the housing element. So it's consultant fees. A lot of
Okay.
it into.
Okay. And this may have shown up before and I've just noticed it, but I refer to it as the Sales Tax Citizens Oversight Committee. And then there's things in the reports that refers to it as a sales tax override. And given my sense of what the word override means, I'm not clear about why this is called sales tax override.
That's like the technical name that the state calls it. They, at one point when I was talking to them, I referred to it as this Corte Madera sales tax, and they said, well, the technical name is the override. That's just the name the state gave it. So they said, you should be referring to it as the override. And I said, okay.
It doesn't make sense.
No,
Just
it's-
saying.
no, yeah, no, I didn't think it did either, but that-
Really does not make
but
sense. I'm
that's
like,
the name they gave it. I don't know why.
What does?
well,
Word
on the
override.
continuum of sense and nonsense. Okay. So there's a column headings, period activity and fiscal activity. The period is,
In this case, it's June, the last month of.
so the period is a month.
Yes,
Okay, great.
and yes.
All right, that was, and again, I acknowledge that since we don't meet every month or two, sometimes these things have been explained and then they've fallen by the wayside.
Chair Gabosi, if I may, one definition of override is said to be an excess or increase on a budget, salary, or cost.
Okay. Still, okay. Um. On page 6 of the actual report, just as I'm curious about an item that's referred to as do not use.
Oh, yes, I had, I had entered the wrong amount or the wrong account number for the housing element.
Uh-huh.
And so then when I moved it into the correct line item, I didn't want there to be any confusion. So I just called that do not use, so we wouldn't use it anymore.
Okay. All right. I think all of my questions had to do with override. Okay. I don't have any other questions then with regard to the 2020.
Let me ask one quick question.
Sure.
Just curious if the rate on the debt we're paying is around 2 to 3 and money markets are now 4 and change. Are we making money in this investment?
We
That would
actually,
pay for the
we
interest?
actually did make money and we did, we borrowed, we borrowed like about, I think it was $6.8 million and, at the end of, was it 21 or it must have been 22? Yeah, that we had 7.8 million
Yeah,
in there. Yeah, so yes, yes.
That's
So-
nice.
it's a nice arbitrage.
So we're servicing the debt at 2% or
Yes.
2.5 or whatever, and which is fixed.
Yes, it is.
And the funds that are held by the bank in New York, that's a variable rate that
It's
the
earned.
interest that they pay, which is whatever the market rate is that they're paying. So if that's now exceeded our borrowing rate, then
Worked out.
Just,
good.
I mean,
Good on
that
us.
money is being drawn down pretty
Yeah, oh, yeah.
rapidly at this point.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's not like
Still,
Yeah,
But
no,
still,
hey,
yeah.
every penny.
300 grand, that pays for the interest.
Okay,
Can I ask one quick follow-up to that?
Sure.
So then, I haven't seen the whole budget workup for the new town hall. There must be some padding in there for overrides, cost overrides.
contingencies.
So we have a authorized 10% contingency from council. And so we're still operating within that.
And it would seem now if we're up to 7.8 million that we're very comfortably cushioned.
Yeah, and even that higher number isn't an authorized amount by council. It's just part of what's in the current bank or budget.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But the balance of the cost of this is paid by the sales tax. It's up like $3 million or something.
Not the entire balance. At the end of the previous fiscal year, the year ending 21, there was an unallocated ending balance. And we put a portion of that as well as the ARPA funds into that town, a new fund that we established called Town Capital Projects. And I think $3 million of that is budgeted for the town hall project. So that in that case, no, for this current year, there's no money from the sales tax fund budgeted for the town hall, but next year there may be, just depending
Right.
on how much we spend this year. Yeah.
Okay. All right, then I think now I'm supposed to ask if there's any citizens.
So I did see Patty had her hand up, but she emailed us and said that override is basically that the tax is over the original one. So the voters approved the sales tax twice. So that's why the second time it's an override. That's what Patty
The
said.
measure F is the override. And
That's what the state calls measure F. Yes,
right,
override.
because
Yeah,
it
yes,
overrode
they
the
told me.
measure whatever the original.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. They just told me that I should.
So
refer
it
to
became
as-
override when we passed
Yeah.
the second.
I'm not sure if that was the reason. They just told me it was called override and I should be.
Well, that
referring to
makes
it, so-
sense. That is-
Okay,
That was only public comment.
all right. So that's completes item 3A.
Well, it doesn't because we haven't really talked about our annual report to the
Oh, yes.
council. Preparation of the annual report.
So I have a copy of, our annual report from last year.
Yeah, so do I.
So I'm guessing at this point that we
Town hall.
would request staff to prepare an annual report, basically using this information and the kind of the template.
And is there a reason why you hadn't prepared that for this meeting? Because last year you had it in this.
No, I don't think I
meeting.
had it in this meeting. I think I waited until we
So
heard
the second meeting?
the committee's input and then we had another
Oh.
meeting.
Okay,
And one of the things that we did in the last report is that we put ordered items from largest to smallest, which is not the same as they are listed here on page 5.
Okay. So in the annual report. I
So when we do
list
the
them.
annual report, just from the most significant amounts to the less significant amounts. That makes sense?
I will do that, yes.
you have a lot of like undesignated stuff, so.
Yeah, so undesignated, okay, undesignated in the projects is, are, obviously items that are not, attributed to a certain project. But what they are, here, I'll tell you what, it's, okay, so it's the debt service, which is about $449,000 of that. It's the youth salaries, which is about 50,000. It's the transfers to the other funds, which are 184,000. It's that disaster preparedness that you asked about, that NRG expense for about 54,000. And then things like weed abatement is 83,000. These are things that aren't like really capital not like.
Daria, where are you referring to on this?
Jean was asking about, let's see.
Well, I guess my question is, you then pull that out to go, when you do our report, because our report has, the 5 different categories, and then under them, you kind of highlight what that includes. So you have to then pull those undesignated and categorize them in our report.
Right, and there's 2
Right.
different ways that I
Yeah.
can run the report, and I just did it both ways,
Okay.
just so that you would have the most information. And one of the ways, throws things into undesignated and the other one doesn't.
Okay.
Okay. So do you need any other guidance from this committee with regard to preparing the annual report for us?
I don't think so, thank you.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to give feedback or feed into with regard to the annual report?
We wouldn't be talking about line items,
This was last year's.
but in terms of this year, I was just looking at.
So-
Schedule of projects, are we gonna talk about that at all, or just? Are we done with that?
For the current year, for,
Yeah,
For the year that we're reporting,
Oh, no,
on
yeah,
or-
I was thinking forward.
yeah, so we're now going to, next we're going to then go into 3B and look at going forward the line items or whatever you wish to.
Well, it's not really forward, we're in it.
In it, yeah.
Yeah,
We don't have any forward
yeah, no, I
information
mean,
here,
forward in our meeting.
unfortunately.
I don't mean future. Yeah, no, we're halfway into 2022, 2023. Okay. All right, so to then continue in our agenda, we're now looking at the summary of fiscal year 2022, 2023 sales tax override fund as of January 19. And you have some information that's
yes,
beyond that. Okay,
yes, okay.
So-
Okay, beginning on page 17 of the packet, you can see that this is as of January 19th. And that the sales tax received to date as of January 19th was about $1.9 million. And that's 5 of 12 payments we expect to receive. So, and we have budgeted about, I think 4.1 million. So we're actually a little bit ahead of the budget, but, we have 7 payments remaining, so we don't know yet what the final will be. And then you will see, under expenditures that, those same, for the most part, projects, or not projects, those same, areas of expenditures are listed. The debt service, we've only paid one of the payments so far this year. That's why it's so much less than than the previous
We
year.
pay it quarterly?
No, we pay it twice a year. One payment, we pay only interest, and then the second payment, we pay interest and principal. So we've only paid one of them as of this point. And then you'll see the other, it's just those same items listed. So as of the end, or not the end, as of the middle of January, January 19th, there was about $9 million in this fund, 2.5 of which is reserved for emergencies. And then on the following pages, see, on page 18 and 19, that again lists the expenditures and budget by those categories that are on the preceding page, and then on the beginning on page 22 and summarized on page 24, or excuse me, I said that backwards. The pages 18, 19, and 20 show by project, and then the pages 22, 23, and 24 show by those major categories.
Got it. And just going back to what you just said about the interest, so there's 2 payments, one for the debt service. The first payment is interest and the second payment is interest plus principal. So the second one will be substantially more.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now then, I guess then we're going to proceed to questions that you have with regard to 2022, 2023 items, activity, what have you.
Okay, so we are more than halfway through the year. How, you're showing that we have about 74% of our budget left to spend. How much, I guess this is more for RJ and Adam, how much are you thinking we're gonna be when the year ends in terms of spending?
Little hard for me to dissect it all by Measure F fund. Just given the way we look at overall project costs, and then a lot of this we let Daria workers magic onto what goes Measure F and what goes other sources. But this is generally the quiet time within the construction year. We really don't kind of bid and really roll out big projects. So it is going to be smaller dollars between now and the end of June. General, obviously we have our town hall project that's going to ramp up, so there will be some chunk invoices from that, I expect. And so
Is there a particular list that you're looking at on the report that maybe you're referring to in terms of the specific
Well, in
projects?
general, I think every year we've done this. You budget for it to do like, $8 million, let's say, of projects, and you end up doing $1 million.
Right.
And every year it's the same. And then we geared up staff. I remember we talked about gearing up staff so that we can get more projects done faster. And then it doesn't seem to be happening.
yeah, and I'm happy to help paint that picture. Just maybe start by talking in general about all the things that are going on, because it is ramped up considerably over the years. So obviously we have the town hall construction, we have a construction management team and architecture team that work alongside the folks in the field. We've got a Paradise Drive Complete Streets design going. We have a storm drain master plan that's in year 2 out of 2. That's also a pretty big kind of engineering analysis effort. We'll be doing another neighborhood sidewalk pilot program. We have a Hart Street connector, which is a connection near our Corte Madera bike path. That's in design as well. We're designing a San Clemente force main to our San Clemente pump station. That's about a $1.5 million design to address a flood control pump station issue. We've got our town park restroom that's in design as well. We'll be sending out an RFP for a kind of complete streets project in Christmas Tree Hill that looks at undergrounding and all the other facilities in the ground, sewer, storm drain, all those things, plus roadway improvements and evacuation improvements. That'll start a outreach and design process this calendar year. You may have followed some of the discussions with council about the Caltrans overcrossing project and a commitment of funds there. We have some other needed improvements at our Black Kettle pump station. That's kind of behind Big Five on that side of town. And plus we have an equal or greater number of projects on the sanitary district side. So staff is very busy.
No, I'm sure they're really busy. What I'm asking is, are we over budgeting? Are we committing to more than we're capable of delivering?
Well, that's I'm trying to, I think on the project, which one of these reports refers to each of the projects that were sort of budgeted for?
If
Because
you
I think
will-
that maybe
yeah,
if we
you
get
will-
specific,
if
it
you will
might be.
look at page 20, there's a summary of the project. And also, if I could just add one thing, when we're spending money on the projects, oftentimes, virtually all of the time, I will look and see if we have restricted money that we can spend first, like gas tax or a grant or something like that. And if I, to preserve this money,
Mhm.
because it's, unrestricted. So sometimes, if it turns out we have extra money in another fund or get a grant, we may, I tend to spend that money first, even though we had budgeted it maybe in this fund. So
So
that's
is
some,
that reported somewhere?
yeah, yes, it is. It's in our financial statements, but because it's not part of the Corte Madera sales tax. If we're
Right.
paying, it out of gas tax or road development fees or something like that, then it doesn't show up in these reports. But I mean, it does of course show up in the town's financial statements.
Right, so it's hard to gauge actual money spent on all these projects.
Sometimes, not all, every project, but sometimes, yes, this is just the money spent from the Corte Madera sales tax fund.
But 74% remaining appears high to me.
Some of, also, I mean, it won't be 74%, but some of the items we also do at the end of the year, like transfers to other funds, that $214,000. We wait till the end and see what the actual number is. Or the Corte Madera contribution to CMFA Measure C, we have $89,000 there, and we wait till the end. And what that is, because we want Larkspur and Corte Madera to be paying the same amount, and Larkspur's bigger, so they pay at larger shares. So we make up the difference. Or like the Measure F funds paid to CMFA to do work on the town's behalf. We've budgeted $150,000, and we wait till the end of the year for a lot of these things, to true up. So that's why a lot of things just show up at the end of the year and aren't showing up in the middle of the year.
So the outflow isn't kind of even every
No, it's
month.
not.
So you have some seasonal stuff where you're not going to be working when it's pouring down rain.
Yes.
And then there's some more up curve at certain times of the year because of your accounting practices.
Right, and
Payment
the debt
practices.
service, also is a significant amount that, the second part isn't due until May or June. I can't remember the exact date. I think it's May.
Right.
So the money that's going to the CMFA, is that would that be under disaster preparedness?
That's right.
Okay. And I guess it'll just be interesting to know, I guess we'll have to wait until June to figure out what the year has done.
And I don't know if it's helpful to talk about a specific example, for instance, town hall, but that project was estimated to be about $12.5 million. We had 7.6 million that was financed through the bond, and we know what that cost is, roughly $400,000. Then we have 3.5 million coming from the general fund and only 1.372 coming from Measure F. So that value that I think you saw on the previous page in the 300,000 range is kind of that portion of the 1.372. It doesn't show you all of the dollars from the other sources, if that helps.
Right, so the you said 1.372 is from, so
Yes.
is that our yearly payments?
So when we budgeted for the $12.5 million project, we had 1.372 coming out of Measure of Sales Tax plus the payment to the bond finance of roughly 400,000
So there's,
Each year, though,
Each year.
Yes.
yes. So
so total would be,
the debt
for 20
service,
years will be,
It'll be the 1.372 plus our annual payment toward the bond.
okay. I think that's all I have right now.
Carl, yeah,
Yeah, I just have kind of some broad questions and then this debt service thing. So sorry. But I'm just thinking, RJ, with all the rain and such, how's the town held up? I mean, is there any projects that are going to get accelerated, you think, or drains or pumps or streets? How'd everything hold up?
It held up relatively well. It was a big event, so as you can expect, things are going to happen. We do have one particular project site that likely is going to cost between $300 and $400,000 to do a complete repair on, and we're waiting for approvals on that through Marin OES and Cal OES and others.
Where's that?
It's on Endeavor Drive, on the corner of Endeavor Drive and Endeavor Court. It's an uphill slide that goes up to Ring Mountain, and it's just eroded and had some issues. So we're in design on that, but that's definitely something we need to earmark for budgeting purposes. And then outside of that, it's been a lot more smaller scale things. Ramping up response for, any issues with backups of storm drains and sewer, and then also doing, quick urgent repairs to small sections of pipe that were having issues that we found out because of the storm. So collectively, all the small stuff is, I don't know, maybe around $100,000 worth of stuff we've had to deal with on those, plus this larger one that we're gonna have to address here, likely in the next 6 months.
Would that be out of the emergency side of things, since it's not in the budget, or are things like that in the budget?
That particular project isn't in the budget. So, we would have to ask council for approval for that.
Just in terms of within this paying for it, it would come out of that 3.5 million, since it's not in the current budget. If
We would
300,000 pops up.
it would come out of the fund, the fund itself, not,
Okay.
there's no particular line item for it at this
Alright.
time.
Gotcha.
We would set up a
I-
project for it and
Okay.
council would approve it.
I know the High Canal bridges, there's some work going on, but I walk by it every day and there's this whole side just fell off.
Mhm.
Boulders were put on a prior piece that fell off, so I'm sure you guys are aware, and the gates along there. Canal's in pretty bad shape on that side. I guess this debt thing still puzzles me. So we're paying the sales tax, us are paying the debt service. Right?
Yes.
And that debt service is covering, in a sense, some of the here and the trailers and such, but it seems like we're paying both. I see the rent for all of this is on here for the trailer, for this whole building. It's almost $220,000. And we're also paying the debt. Why are we paying rent and covering the debt? It's like we're covering all of this. I mean, the town should pick up the rent because you're gonna pay it anyway. But that rent's being funneled through the sales tax committee. How's that work?
Well, there was no rent on the old town hall because town owns it.
Right.
So this is an expense that we considered, included with the construction, it's as a consequence of building a new town hall. That's why it was decided that we would charge it to this fund.
Okay, and this whole thing goes away. All right,
But in the big picture, sales tax dollars are gonna end up paying for the entire project,
For the entire project.
Town hall?
town hall project.
Not the
So-
entirety of it, but about 7 million of it, or 8 million of it.
So yeah, we set aside the 7.6 for the bond plus 1.372. And then 3.5 came from the general fund.
Oh,
And then depending on how much we make off interest, it
Mhm.
could
So-
get adjusted.
So the general fund also came in, okay.
So roughly maybe 55% from sales
A
tax,
little bit more, yeah.
60%, and the balance is from general fund and all that fabulous interest that we're
We
making.
didn't get any help from the state on that?
that brings up something else I want to ask. In the news, obviously, we got a big grant for Casa Buena. Is that budgeted in, or are there other grants, the Caltrans overcrossing? We're grants out there, we should be.
Yeah, so yeah, just in general on grants, Dory mentioned a couple, right? So Measure A, Measure B, those are kind of consistent grant funds that we get, plus street impact fees, gas tax. Then we have individual project grants. So Casa Buena, we're getting $400,000 from the Air District. We have this Paradise Drive Complete Streets, which is from westward to roughly Robin Drive, and we're getting $2 million from One Bay Area grant, the third cycle. That was just we were just notified of that, so that's big news. The design part of that had been funded from Measure A sales tax from previous years, but the construction will mostly be that $2 million from OBAG. We're also getting another $1.5 million in state active transportation program funds for a Central Marin Regional Pathways project. The Hart Street connector, I think I mentioned that, we're getting about $400,000 in grant funds for that. So we've been very fortunate over the last few years in being successful, a lot of these grants. So we really try to leverage our projects as much as possible.
So all that's
All,
baked in.
all of that actually is.
Off to the
is-
side,
Offsets the need to use
yeah.
sales
So we
tax
don't
fund for
really
that.
have that.
So
figured out.
So you're these, I think that partly shows it on one hand shows less draw from Measure F, but it doesn't paint the picture of how much work is actually being done because you're only seeing what's coming out of the Measure F pocket.
I could go on, but I think you kind of know where I'm going with this. Maybe is that part of our plan or not? Is this manna from heaven, or how's this working out?
It's additional, I mean, one way to look at it, and I guess the way I look at it is it's additional money that if we didn't have through grants, we'd be funding through either sales tax funds or general funds or some other source.
There would be some trade-off if we didn't.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, these are projects that are designed, the funding for the design, as RJ said, is not it's coming from a different fund, not the sales tax fund. And then the actual construction money is going to be, in the case of receiving grants, also doesn't show up in the sales tax fund. It comes from a specific grant fund.
Mhm.
And so you're seeing, what you're going to see on the Paradise Drive project is the balance essentially of the total project cost minus the grant funds.
Yeah.
And so more likely, without a lot of these big grant funds, those projects would just kind of remain on the sideline until we either built up enough general fund or sales tax measure to fund them based on other priorities. And they would just sit there until we had the money saved up or we got a bigger grant, which is what we've done and been able to do. So, I mean, ideally, if we could get in a position where we're only paying 10 to 25% of every project, that's like the perfect world that we want to live in. So.
I guess that's one last question. I'm just trying to boil it down. We have a budget of, just for argument's sake, call it $6 million. We just got 2 million here, 400,000 there, this and that. Does that impact that $6 million? Based on what we projected, does that money come in, change the numbers on what we have laid out in the budget?
For this year's budget?
Yeah.
I
I'm just
don't,
trying to- Are all those grants helping our budget or hurting?
It's allowing us to build more projects.
That aren't on here.
Well, so like I said, on Paradise Drive Complete Streets in particular, we had committed toward moving forward with design,
Okay.
but we wouldn't push that into construction without
The grants.
grants.
Okay.
So it would just sit shovel ready for design once we get grants.
And that won't be on this sheet with allocation.
And so there will be a percentage that will need to be identified to cover the balance because the project is likely closer to 3 million, but we have some time to kind of work that estimate out and then identify where the
But the
funds are coming from.
grants don't show up here.
And what is that project?
Paradise Drive Complete Streets. So it's from westward to the east part of town, just past Robin Drive. And it's a multi-use path on the south side and complete new roadway, raising the roadway a couple feet to consider future sea level rise. It's
Subsidence.
All right. I'm done. I beat the horse. It's over.
Chris,
I just had a question for RJ, because I see this is item, Department 73 on page 22. There's a line item towards the bottom, electric vehicle infrastructure. $20,000 and nothing's been spent on that yet. I'm just curious about what that is.
Hmm.
And now that I hear you talk, I see that I was thinking about Build Back Better funds that might come through for those charging stations, which wouldn't be included here because that's not Measure F, but I'm just on the 20,000. What is that?
Yeah, so initially that's we have a pending application to add 3 more EV charging stations at the new town hall. And so we have an approval from TAM and MCE to get funds from them. But we're still getting through the building permit stages before we implement. So
TAM being transferred.
Transportation Authority of Marin.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks. I listened to the town council meeting when there was the presentation about the Tam Drive overcrossing project. And I'm not sure where that shows up here. I looked for it and I didn't see it. So I assume that there's some funds from the Tam Drive overcrossing project that are amounts that will be spent in 22, 23 and possibly forward, or maybe it's all forward.
Yeah, I mean, the way we structured it was not to impact the 22-23
Okay,
Measure F
okay, great.
fund at all. And so, but we
So
will,
There's 0 this year.
right, and something we can talk about closer to when we get into finalizing the budget would be talking about 23-24 and how
Okay.
that project would impact the
So it's out.
23-24. Yeah.
Okay. And I think that you addressed this a little, Daria, but in general, our sales tax revenue, we're meeting expectations, exceeding, or have missed. I think that you
Yes.
said that we either met or exceeding.
yeah, slightly exceeding so far this year, yes.
Okay. Okay. That covers my questions. Okay, that's the questions that I have. I think then we're going to go to public comment.
Yes, we have public comment from Patty. She said, RJ didn't list Casa Buena on the horizon. Can't that work be done before PG&E does their gas line replacements because the gas line doesn't appear to run under the street? And that's all she wrote.
And in addition to that, the email that I sent you, RJ, about they're not actually planning to replace the gas line. It looks like they're just testing it.
Yeah, their communication has been, they have two projects, strength testing and a replacement line,
Who's they?
PG&E.
Okay.
And we've even uploaded their information to our town webpage, just so everyone has what we have. So I've always expected that, and I've always heard from them that they will be doing work and digging up all or portions of the gas line. And doesn't make sense to put a brand new road. A lot of that project also involves retaining walls. So if they're crossing anywhere through the road, then that becomes its own exercise. So I'd have to look into that. Hasn't been what they've communicated to me. We have received also some progress drawings from them as well that indicated otherwise, but we can take a deeper look about that.
I clicked on, what you have on your website, and it says for there was another road that was being replaced, the gas lines were being replaced, that wasn't Casa Buena. But on Casa Buena, all it says it was due to be tested in 2024. And if they fail the test, are we talking 2027 to replace it?
No, so I think I did send you an email ahead of this, just kind of telling you the information we got from the air district, that they're not going to extend us beyond what they have thus far
No, I
for the $400,000. They said it's got to be all completed and documentation completed by June 30th, 2026, which means we really have to construct the year prior. So we have zero plans, interest in extending that. And if there was any sort of shuffle by PG&E to slide that project, we would then at that point try to move it in front and really get through all the details of where we can build certain portions without having to tear it up later, and kind of do that at the same time, which really isn't the most efficient path. But if that's what we have to do, we would, if they pushed any further.
So do you know on the street where they're actually replacing it, they would be digging up the entire gas line on that street? I forgot what, I can't.
One thing,
So
Go
yeah, they show right, all of, it's a green line, Casa Buena Drive
Yeah,
from roughly Marin Joe's all the way down almost where they have the southbound on-ramp in green as gas pipeline strength testing.
And there's a replacement on Meadow Sweet?
The replacement is actually on Tamil Vista. Okay, great. You got it up there. And then some more strength testing on
Are they gonna
Paloma.
be digging up the entire gas line and replacing it?
I don't have the specifics on it, but they will be digging up
yeah, and I think
portions along Casa Buena.
one thing we're gonna do is we're gonna bring them for a presentation on this project in the next near term, in front of the town council, and
So-
allow it, people to come and ask questions of PG&E directly as well. So
So if you see just even on the right-hand side on the webpage, so the strength test confirms the gas pipeline's integrity and operating pressure. During the test, we empty, then fill the pipeline with water and pressurize to a level higher than normal operating pressure. We then repair or replace sections of the pipeline that do not meet safety standards. So
Oh, so they will be repairing. It's not just the testing.
So it's possible, so they're gonna do tests practically all the way over to Tiburon.
Yep.
And if things don't meet the threshold of what it should be, then things could need to be replaced anywhere along there.
that's correct.
And we have no sense or feel as to how much that might occur.
We don't have intimate knowledge, but
That's why they do the tests.
this project is on their what's the word? It's a compliance project. So it's been identified as near or at the end of its service life. And that's another reason why they've told us they don't want this project to slide, because liability and safety and
Yeah.
all those things become a bigger issue if something happens. But you can expect some sections are gonna need to replace.
Somewhere on that whole.
On the green
Yeah.
portion, I would say
Never mind.
I think portion, and then the blue, it seems like the majority.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to know from them, their experience, whether they've done this elsewhere, sort of at the same age of infrastructure, how much has actually needed to be fully replaced and how much has survived their testing. So
But-
again, good question.
at the criteria.
Is there some part of the Casa Buena project that can be done? I mean, there's a lot of stages to the Casa Buena project, right? So is there a portion that could start in 2024? As they're doing the testing?
That's, so for one, we did complete the sewer rehabilitation, so that was done last summer, just to really get all of our other town and district needs out of the way. It's just a gamble because you hope that maybe you can work at the same time, but if all of a sudden they have to do the whole pipeline, then their contractor's not happy, our contractor's not happy, our team is having to coordinate way more than it would if they were just completely
Right.
done and out of the way. So it's generally better if someone goes first and then the other team follows. In this case, given the project for Casa Buena Complete Streets involves new sidewalk, new roadway, we would rather do that at the end, so we're not damaging, so they're not damaging our infrastructure.
But is it out for bid? I mean, can you get like people lined up? I mean, so you don't have to start from scratch when they finish?
So yeah, we'll work with them on what we call restoration. Right, so if we know we're gonna pave the road, we might be able to get them to contribute some funds instead of doing a more substantial restoration. So we'll have that dialogue with them and see kind of where we can have some benefits. Same thing when it goes with sidewalk, if they have to cut through a portion of the sidewalk, but we already know that we might lift it or adjust it, we'll say, hey, just make it safe, make it temporary, but instead of spending $20,000, why don't you put that off to the side and we will build it and
How long
fix
is
it.
the bidding process?
Typically about a month.
But you can only bid so far ahead,
Right.
given
Yeah, so
costs of materials are
yeah, so
fluctuating.
we would most likely bid early 2025 so that we're hitting the ground running spring all through summer to complete it ahead of that deadline.
And how that factors into our sales tax funds is that sales tax contributes to infrastructure, and whenever that happens, then there you go. Okay. Did we answer Patty's question?
Yeah, I think I stepped all over her question, so.
She still has her hand raised and I
Right.
only read like 10 seconds worth of a comment, so I'm just gonna allow her to speak for the remaining
All
time.
right.
if That's okay. Patty,
I just wanted to clarify, and this is something I had asked Adam about. It looks like the gas line does not run under the street. It looks like it's a little bit west of that. So that was my concern, RJ, is that will the street be preserved during the time they're playing their little dance over the gas lines?
If they're working even off to the side of the street, they're bound to gouge, scrape, damage aspects. So we'll be there, we'll find them. And like I said, if it's a section that we know we're going to replace anyway, we'll work out a deal that's to the town's benefit where and of the PG&E taxpayers' benefits, where we're not building something twice and trying to get them to put some money off to the side and we build it once at the end. So
Okay. Patty, did you get your question answered?
I removed her. Sorry.
She didn't get her 3
But-
minutes.
But she doesn't have her hand raised any longer.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Give me one.
All right. Okay,
I will be very eager to hear PG&E's presentation and see if I can get some clarification about how they're going to destroy our street. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we've covered item 3B, the three aspects of attachment 1, 2, and 3. We've asked questions, gotten answered, and so on. Anything else on that? Then I think we're done. We got public comment. Okay, so then the next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of the June 22nd, 2022 meeting. I've reviewed them and I have no edits. Does anybody else have anything?
I'm presuming that, I mean, there were a lot of things that were brought up that you were gonna change. I'm presuming everything that was brought up at the last meeting was done. But like the minutes,
Yeah, at this point, what it is we're approving these
minutes.
minutes. We're not agendizing these things.
okay. I have no edits of the minutes.
Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the minutes as written?
Second,
Committee member Greenbaum,
yes,
committee member Spurzum,
Yes.
committee member McBride,
Yes.
Chair Gerbosi.
Yes.
The motion passes.
So then the next item on our agenda is discuss next meeting date and then adjourn. Basically, we should have a meeting when you've had an opportunity to prepare a draft of our annual report.
Yes.
Great.
so. Can we also see, so we're not gonna see any further beyond 2023 at the next meeting? Any information on projects beyond?
We have information we can share.
You want to do it at the same meeting? I was thinking we would do it, and this speaks to maybe a larger discussion of how we sort of maybe preview upcoming,
The budget.
obviously things, yeah, but upcoming years in terms of at least what we know going into the next fiscal year and beyond, which obviously changes from time to time. But I don't know when we usually get the report to the council, if there's sort of an expectation on timing for the report, because the second conversation I would expect would happen more closer to the budget preparation process. So obviously we get a budget approved in June.
Right, I mean, we don't have the budget ready at all.
No, we haven't even started that
Yeah,
process. So
yeah,
In the
very-
past,
yeah.
for the last 2 years, we've presented the report in July.
Yes,
So there's,
okay, so it could work.
I don't think there's a compelling urgency that we must get the report to them.
Okay,
So if we can get more out of having a meeting, if our next meeting is further along in the development
That's
of
what I would
the following
recommend.
year's budget,
Yep.
then that would be advantageous.
Is there also like a 5-year plan out there?
well, go ahead.
There used to be.
It's at least on the capital improvement side, it's some things are very well defined, like we know we want to build cost of one in summer 2025. Other things are, we do pavement reports that say to keep current pavement levels, you got to spend about 1.5 million, but we haven't actually gone 3 years down the road, down the horizon to say where those roads are going to be. So if we did look at a longer range plan, it's going to be some of the TBD stuff, but we want to put it toward roads.
And just remember, again, not all those projects are going to be paid for out of this fund. So we can talk about projects, but in terms of what the oversight committee is actually going to be reviewing with respect to the funds use towards those projects,
Mhm.
it's just something to keep in mind. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio. It's sort of like, as we discussed today, some of the funding may come from other sources.
And one process I mentioned, we're in year 2 of our storm drain master plan. That is at the completion, which might be the end of the year or around this time of next year, we're gonna have a draft document of needs. That is gonna potentially have a big significance in how we budget things, right? Because it's gonna say, oh, over the next 10 years, to do best practices on flood control, you need to spend $15 million, right? So at this point in time, we don't have that information yet. We're kind of speculating, but we will have that information in about a year, and that'll help inform like how much money we need to set aside for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I guess, when we first started, none of these projects were projects, right? I mean, it was like, so we had like a 5-year projection of these projects that were kind of not done before, but I guess we're getting through a lot of them, so.
Yeah, and the other
And
reason why
adding
to wait a little bit further along in the year to come back and talk about maybe some of the future projects. For example, earlier in the meetam we mentioned the Tam Overcrossing project and sort of the expectation that next year to see some of the sales tax funding going towards that project. However, we don't even know if that project will be funded yet. It's got to go to the state process, and we should hear back by, I would hope, within the next few months. So that would have us obviously a significant effect one way or the other on what we're going to be discussing in terms of even the 23-24 fiscal year.
Okay,
we
all
just-
right.
So we just need a date.
I think I'll send out a doodle poll and do the usual process based on Daria's availability and when she has that written.
Dory, I mean, typically in this, obviously this is my first, this is new to me somewhat as well, but typically when would we have another meeting with the sales tax committee oversight? Or when did we do it last year? Looks like the minutes are from June.
Yeah, last year we had a meeting in March where they went over the draft report. It was like middle of March, and then they approved that in June,
I see.
right?
And then it went to the
And
council in
then we got
July.
agendized in July.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
for the council where you presented.
Mhm. Okay. So our scheduling will be via doodle.
May, June or
I
something.
just want
yeah.
to say I'm gonna be away from May 16th to June 19th. So if we can make it happen other time, I guess before I would leave.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing further, I'm going to adjourn this meeting, right? This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.